That's that sound. That's that sound. That means we in the championship rounds again. We're King Amin of Essex. This is round 10. Of course, always hosted by your man Jay, self-described casual boxing fan. And of course, here, what do? We discuss boxing, news, and everything in between. So we always gonna get right into it. What's up? What's up, my brother? How you?
I'm good, man. Everything's good. How's everything on your end, man?
Man, I can't complain. Working. Glad to be employed. You know, you got to explain the t-shirt, though. You got the hard tee on. You know what I'm saying? Strong. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But what's the motivation for the t-shirt?
Yeah, just this is dad gang, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta muscle up.
Okay. I didn't even see the bottom of it, but that's what it is.
Yeah,
That's
so
what it is.
All
right.
It's like
All right. How was your Memorial Day weekend, man?
It was cool, man. I told you what I was doing. I was doing a home project, man. So, the weekend's never long enough, man. But it was cool just to kick back with the familia.
Man, it comes with the territory, my brother. It comes with the territory. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. The first article comes from BBC.com. We're doing a little bit of recap here. So we're going to talk about Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez, that fight. Of course, this is a big deal, holds all the belts in the welterweight division. So first, let's just give you an overall impression of the fight, and then we'll kind of get into the specifics about Josh Taylor and this accomplishment.
Well, first of all, whenever you have a fight for undisputed, which rarely happens because all the sanctioning bodies, all the belts all over the place scattered. You had two undefeated fighters. You had the European fighter. And again, it's always a kind of a mystique around European fighters. Are they the goods? Can they handle this kind of fighter? Are they really tough enough?
Okay.
And, against, tough Mexican fighter, you know what I'm saying? It was definitely, and I had talked about this fight probably like 2 months ago because I had been anticipating it, man. And then 140 pounds, the junior welterweight division is right below welterweight. So it's always interesting to see kind of like who's, going to be the king of that division,
Right.
But as far as the fight itself, man, a lot of people thought it was going to be Ramirez coming in with the pressure that was going to fold up Taylor. And Taylor ended up dropping Ramirez twice and really physically dominated the fight. So it was one of them things, man. Somebody say, you can't beat somebody and you make it look easy, man. So hats off to Josh Taylor.
All right. Well, let's just peel back the layers a little bit in terms of Taylor. I might not be using all the correct terminology, but how would you kind of describe his style as a fighter, and what does he do well? Like what makes him special, if anything?
Slick southpaw. He's a boxer.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And listen, that's slick. That's usually, when they describing a black fighter. But what you mean is an athletic fighter that can kind of use their movement, in addition to their accuracy. And Taylor has that. I mean, everybody knew that he was technically sound, but sometimes the guys that are technically sound, they're also traditional high guard type guys. And he's, kind of hands low, but stay on the phone, but know how to move, just very elusive. And if you question his power, you won't no more because he dropped Ramirez twice, with, right on the uppercut. And I think with a straight, with a straight left. So, yeah, he's that good, man. He's definitely that good.
So you answered my next question because I was going to ask what might have been one of the surprises for people who haven't really seen this guy, and I guess maybe it might have been that power. So I guess we'll move on down to the next question. Ring Magazine has him ranked number 5 over, across, pound for pound in terms of the world's best boxers. So what are we doing here? Is this kind of an overreaction kind of thing? Is he deserving of this? What did you think of the ranking first?
I'll start off by saying pound for pound lists are always tricky. They're too subjective.
Okay.
Too subjective, all right? Number one, you look at the list and they put a cruiserweight that's done nothing at heavyweight and put him on a pound for pound list when we know cruiserweight is a good division, but it's usually dominated by European guys that hold the title hostage and never fight stateside, yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
Pound for pound lists are too subjective, number one. Number two, however, when somebody, becomes undisputed, they got to be put on that list, no matter how subjective it is. That is the one thing that becomes objective. Any fighter that is undisputed, that's where you start talking about Hall of Fame, that kind of thing. And even title defenses as undisputed, instantly, Hall of Fame. So it's a big accomplishment. So he has to be on the list. Where he's ranked on the list, that's where the subjectivity comes in.
So I know we don't like to play in absolutes, but in terms of which way you were leaning, so are you leaning more towards this is hype after an impressive victory, or this is giving Taylor his just due?
Giving him his just due.
Okay.
Even if J. Cole drop an album and it's an amazing album, you say, yo, J. Cole, he might be the greatest of all times. It's a knee-jerk reaction, but it's something because of what he's doing in this climate.
The quality's still there.
He deserves to be put in that conversation.
I can dig it. So, we always talk about boxing and then the issues kind of around it too. So, on a personal level, Josh Taylor was not happy in terms of the kind of the support he received from, I guess, his home area in the UK. And they were kind of talking about the exposure he got on that side, right? Talking about how none of the major networks carried the fight. So, you know more about the inside outs than I would, or a lot of us. So is that kind of like something that has to do with like organizational? Is that some behind the scenes things going on? Or is this just like, is he one of these guys where there's just no interest where he's at legitimately?
That's a good question, man. Because you think of that is, you could also say the same for Fury. Even though he was, popular, I think because of his antics and his family's history with organized crime, and things that are well documented, that made you draw attention. Oh, and they have a professional fighter. I wonder what kind of person. So there's a curiosity factor. But I mean, Josh Taylor, I'm not sure why he wouldn't get the same or similar recognition. But what I will say is that, when we talk about getting the recognition in terms of, a fighter's ability and competition-wise, whom you're measured against.
Right.
I think it worked hand in hand with this particular fight. He announced himself stateside, and if they didn't hear about him or recognize what he was doing back home, I'm sure they're now looking at him as a national hero. Now if you fart, they're gonna have their nose in the air.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to the next, article. We got a bunch of fights to cover today. So first, we're gonna move on to Nonito Donaire versus Nordine Obiali. Don't kill me if I messed up their names a little bit. I was practicing before. But no disrespect to them guys, But we know Nonito came out with the victory. In terms of me trying to do a little research and look beneath the surface, we kind of expect a good left hook from this guy. What did you think of the fight? 27 KOs, 41-6. What did you think of the fight, and what's next for him?
Yo, they had him cashed out. You know what I'm saying? Okay. They gave him a chance, but they said, like, yo, he was in there against an undefeated fighter, and he was considered old because of how many championship fights he's been in. And, he has a pretty good record. I think in championship fights, he was 16-4, 16-5. I mean, he was pretty good. But, they had him aged out. He's our age, bro. They had him aged out.
Yo, bro, it's interesting, man. All right, Bantamweight title, 4th round stoppage, oldest recognized champion in 118-pound division. That's crazy, yo. Oldest. You know what I'm saying? I got to root for this guy, man.
And there you go. And there you go. The old.
So what did you think as you was fight? Because you watched the fight with a different eye. So is this what you expected? Did you expect? I mean, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for somebody to expect an older guy, maybe for his legs to kind of, or his stamina to kind of fade late in the fight. Did you see that? Not did you see that? Is that what you expected? I mean, and was there any surprises?
I think if I recall, Donaire was coming back down in weight. He moved up and tried to do a few things. He was coming back down to weight where he was comfortable at. His body was comfortable. And, I said it in one of my battle bars. The last thing a fighter loses is his power and his wits. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he was working with, man. That's what he was working with. He still got that pop. And now how and what it's a puncher's chance. You in there, against a puncher taking his chance and he scored. And is watching it. I'm looking at Obayali. I'm like, yeah, he's boxing, but you can't keep. Nobody nobody against Dornier can leave themselves that vulnerable.
Right.
I mean, because if you do, you're either going to show how strong your chin is, or what happened is going to happen.
Right. You're going to get stopped.
You're going to get stopped.
All right. So any thoughts about what might be next, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, he wants to be undisputed. Remember, that's why I made so much emphasis on it. Undisputed is important because it says you went out and collected all the straps, everything that was on the table. You know what I'm saying? Everybody that said they was the man, you said you're not the man. You know what I'm saying? That you fought him, you took that belt, whether you stopped him or split decision or whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? It's just such an honorable accomplishment, and that's what he want to do. And Bantamweight, all that popping. You know what I'm saying? They run around. What's my man? Juan Carlos Estrada. Matter of fact, him and Chocolatito fight when we was down in Tampa for Border Wars. You know what I'm saying? So I think Donaire washed both them cats.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? Okay. If they're standing in his way, Donaire's going to become undisputed. That's my opinion.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna move on to the Danzin fight for the night. The Devin Haney versus Linares. So listen, I had to call you about this fight. I called you, man. I needed your opinion. I couldn't wait for the show, because I just kept hearing, a lot of people grumbling just about how Haney won. So talk to me about your impressions, and then I guess we can kind of talk about specific, I don't know if we want to call it issues people had, but we'll talk about Devin Haney kind of in a bigger context.
I always find a way to relate things to make people understand simply. When Jay-Z put out, certain albums, he put out, Big Pimpin'. It was a different kind of song on that album. It's a different kind of style. Like, Big put out, Notorious Thugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you switch up the flow, for whoever you want to track with. Devin Haney, he could have just boxed smoothly like Sugar Ray and just utilized that sort of temperament as far as I can flash and pick and pop and dance and hit you. Or even, I would say, Pernell Whitaker. Not in terms of the power or the tenacity, but in terms of being evasive in boxing. He could have done that. And he took a little chance and he tried to go toe-to-toe with, again, a guy that all he had was a puncher's chance, and he was taking his chance with every punch.
Right.
So for Devin to stand in there and kind of show that he had, not like he took the punches on purpose, but he showed that he could change his pace. He could switch up his flow, switch up his rhythm. He could switch his, he still won like 8 rounds at least.
Now, so I want to get your reactions to some of the criticisms, okay? Okay, some of the criticisms were, I guess they're saying, Haney should have showed more. I seen him criticized because there was no stoppage. They said there was times earlier in the fight. I'm not saying this, but Linares was kind of a little bit more aggressive earlier in the fight. He kind of trailed off in the second half of the fight. That's in terms of the fight itself, right? Which could be bullshit. Who knows if it's not? But then some of the other criticisms that they were talking about in terms of Devin Haney, nobody was criticizing his skill as a fighter. Everybody was giving him all the respect. They're talking about his personality-wise and the fact that they said he doesn't have an exciting fighting style. How do you think that might impact him? Either his ability to kind of generate revenue, because sometimes it's just as much about bringing eyes to you and attention as the skill part.
I think it depends on what kind of career he wants to have. I mean, there's a part of him that, they could use wrestling tactics, and he could ask his father to kind of jump out there and play bad guy, or he could say some things to jump out there and play bad guy, or take the tough position against whoever his next opponent is. But he's a laid back guy, and he seems to want to let his skills speak. What people will say about him, you can't please anybody. especially, you know, fight fans, because I mean, listen, if you talk about you love masterclass boxing, then Floyd is no good for you. If you say you like, you know, traditional Mexican style, then you know, Canelo don't fight nobody. You know,
Right.
Like what do you want? You know what I'm saying? Deontay Wilder's trash because he lost one fight.
Right.
He lost one fight. He's trash. He never fought anybody. He was never good in the first place. You know, never mind the 12 people he beat or whatever. He was trash. This is how boxing fans are.
You're a good question. You're a good person to ask, right? And pull me back. I'm about to ask you this question, but pull me back. I didn't ask you this prior to us talking about this topic, but some of the stuff in terms of trying to do a little background research, I just want to know if there's any truth to this, or if these is rumors, or in any way valid. There were, like I said, Haney has been given hhis respect, right? 26-0, 15 KOs. They were saying something. I read something about Ryan Garcia avoided a fight with him. And Loma avoided a fight with him?
Yeah. Well, you know, as far as the Loma fight, I think it was available. Contracts, I believe contracts were offered and Loma did not sign, whatever that situation was.
Right. So ducked them, basically.
They ducked them. I believe thinking the Tito fight was going to be an easier fight.
Oh, wow.
Right. As far as Ryan, now, you know, I think we're going in that direction anyway, as far as the discussion, you know, but see, Ryan is the worst kind of individual, because if he chastised somebody like Devin Haney, because he's sitting back and he's posting, I would have did this and I would have did that, but you just say and ask for a reprieve because you said your head wasn't right. So, you know, and speaking of which, I'm thinking that fight is more 50-50 than anything, you know, so I feel like whoever thinks Devin Haney lacks something, all you got to do is fight him, you know. Now, what do I think?
That was that fight. That was that fight. We talked about that fight. My bad. We talked about that fight.
Yeah.
Garcia. Yeah, a while ago. I think.
Yeah. Devin Haney was ready for the Ryan Garcia fight. Ryan Garcia fight didn't happen. You know, he was on Mike Tyson podcast talking crazy. Then he decided to go with Javier Fortuna, and then he pulled out of that fight. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, come on. He's not the one to judge Devin Haney. Tio, that's another story. You know what I'm saying? Similar situation. They got strong fathers, you know, in their corners as trainers and you know, helping them out. So, yeah, that's a good fight to make. You know what I'm saying? But the detractors can never be pleased. So I think Devin has to do what will please himself. If he just want to be Mr. Cool, he's going to have to be Mr. Cool. I, for one, might choose to play the bad guy a little bit, you know. A good cop, bad cop with pops.
Listen, I just had to ask you, man, because it just seems like a lot of people it was kind of backhanded compliments. Like, yeah, he won, but he should have won like this. But then on the other hand, they were insinuating that there was a lot of people at and around that division that were kind of ducking him or scared of him. So that's why I wanted to ask you about that. All right, so listen, moving right along. This article comes from sportbible.com. Listen, man, we got Ryan Garcia taught Logan Paul how to KO Floyd Mayweather. So we got training footage out there. You know, it's just a lot going on. Obviously, they're drumming up a lot of, you know, attention around this. So what do you think? I mean, obviously Garcia holds the interim, you know, lightweight title. So he's giving Logan Paul advice, talking about get comfortable in an uncomfortable position. You know, general advice, you know, not necessarily going to help him, you know, in the ring with Mr. 50-0, but what do you think, man?
That quote in of itself, get comfortable with being in an uncomfortable place. Ryan Garcia is so full of shit, it doesn't even matter. Okay? Bro, like seriously. And then on top of that, like I said, you want to build your confidence, you want to build an inner sanctum, you want to surround yourself with, you know, iron sharp as iron and all of that. Get out of here, man. Come on. Now, granted, you know, the thing about technique is technique, but Ryan should be working on technique with people that have technique greater than he. So what he want to do is be the big fit. Yeah, he want to show off. Look how fast I am. Come on, man. It's a circle jerk.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Come
All
on.
right. So listen, man, we ain't gonna spend too much time on that, but kind of in the same vein, the same spirit of that. You know, Floyd, there was another article attached to that, and Floyd was kind of talking about, you know, his strategy. You know, so newsflash, his strategy is no strategy. I just gotta show up, right? So I think, listen, this is fitness. This fit goes right in line with the beard and all of that and the memes. You know, either Floyd Mayweather is the best at playing possum and the best salesman in the world, or he's a fool. And I will go with the, you know what I'm saying? I will go with the first guess. But what do you think it is? You know, this is coming out of Floyd Mayweather's mouth. No strategy, I just gotta show up.
Anybody that wants to know how this fight is going to turn out, I implore you, go ahead and watch the McGregor Mayweather fight. They were showing it on Showtime, the replay of it. Please go and watch this fight. You're going to see the boys swimming. What I mean by swimming is like you getting hit by punches you don't see coming, and you try to throw up your guard, but you because you can't see where the punches are coming from, man. That's how it's going to look, man. It's not going to be a pretty sight, but it is going to be a pretty sight because it's going to continue to emphasize you don't just like this, and it's with the same contradiction that Muhammad Ali would just pull backward, which is almost a cardinal sin. You don't just show up to box, but it's Floyd Mayweather, and be careful. Floyd's version of just showing up is, again, a guy that might train, I don't know, 4 to 7 times a week. He's retired, so he doesn't train for the 4 hours he usually does. Maybe he trains for 2 hours.
Right.
I'm retired. That's just showing up for him. Not he ain't sitting home with his kids like me and taking them to the park and scraping them.
Right.
Come on. His version of just showing up is waking up, maybe having a fresh massage, some salmon and lox for breakfast, go for a run, a steam. You know what I'm saying? Go to the gym and spar for a little bit because I just want to stay active. And then maybe I'll show up for an exhibition against we can rock.
I mean, I think the difference is just what you said, right? You don't show up and play boxing, right?
Yeah.
But you can show up and play in an exhibition, right? With somebody who your talent is superior to, right? And you got to pay attention to what people say. And Floyd Mayweather said, my goal is 2 things, to entertain and put away generational wealth. Yeah. And he addressed your question, my question, all the questions we ever asked. Because he said, I could fight a fighter or a boxer. Remember we were talking about Adrian Broner, right?
Absolutely.
Put on a good show, make $35 million. Help the sport, all of those things. These are things I'm throwing in there now. Mm-hmm. Or he said, Logan Paul and him is very popular on YouTube. I could fight him and make $100 million. Go back to the first thing I said. Entertain, put away generational wealth. He's doing both of those things, right? So at this point, how can you blame him? He's basically telling you it's WWE or an exhibition. Even if that sounds like blasphemy to some people, it's an exhibition, right? Yeah. Because one of the first things he did say in that clip is he was like, a real boxing match counts against your record. Yeah. It's the first thing he said. He don't plan to lose, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean?
And again, there's so many factors going into this. Floyd is, regardless of what you think about him or what he does, he's an intelligent man. There's betting lines that says, he won't make it past this round. Floyd is going to carry this man. If the betting line is 4 rounds, boy ain't going to go down to the 6th round. Floyd going to carry him and then bet maybe $3 million, on himself straight, and then all kind of parlay it and all kinds of generational wealth and entertainment.
It's a fact. All right, so kind of related to that, there was some drama related to the undercard, so we're going to kind of talk about both of those issues. So we're supposed to have Pascal versus Badu Jack. That's off now. Pascal failed the drug test, positive for 3 steroids. So now we got Chad Johnson and Brian Maxwell. Maxwell is a bare knuckle fighter. He's 0-3 in his bare knuckle fights. 0-1 in boxing matches. I'm not saying that makes him. It's gonna make him easy to knock out, but you know he's fighting Chad Johnson. So, what do you think? Any intrigue? You think this is a better fight than the original undercard, or is it some bullshit?
Well, let me talk about John Pascal first. I think a lot of people are surprised, and what I might say, I ain't offering no excuses for him because he's always been a uniquely muscular individual. But maybe there was some steroid components in some medicine he was taking. He had a torn bicep, torn rotator cuff in his shoulder. You know, that boy fucking bad, you know, so maybe he was taking some medicine that comes up positive with steroids. So I hope I hope he ain't out there just straight juicing. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's unfortunate. So, I mean, as far as Chad Johnson, though, yes, there's a lot of intrigue because a lot of things. See, this is what people don't know. This is why people come to me because they need to know. You got to ask him, and he'll acknowledge it. Chad Johnson will tell you one of the things he did when he wanted to become a better receiver back in like 2007, I think 2005, 2007. He started taking up boxing. And I remember specifically, he explained the benefit for him was that he'd be able to cut his body in half and create less of a target. He said most wide receivers is going to line straight up and then have to deal with a frontal attack and getting off. He said when you boxing and you training and you standing in your stances, the first thing you do is position yourself on an angle. He said, so the first thing I do when I line up, I create an angle. He said, when I keep my hands up, I'm already ready to block and to parry in boxing.
Right.
You know, when the DB's coming in trying to jam you up, he parrying and he on the angle. That make perfect sense to me.
Right.
So me knowing that, and then he down there working out with the Charlo brothers. Come on now. If he couldn't handle that, and of course there's things like controlled sparring. He ain't down there, you know what I'm saying, float like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. But what I'm telling you is the man is a lot more prepared than what people understand. That's number one. Number two, you know, then you talk about the athlete factor, you know, which is different because it's a full contact sport. I mean, listen, people like to talk about, you know, boxers can't be, it's just a little bit different. You had a fighter, this is many years ago, Seth Mitchell. He was a linebacker for Michigan State. A lot of people didn't think much of him, but just kind of that toughness as a linebacker. I think he stole a interim belt or something like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You had the white, I don't say it like that, but he was a safety, a white boy that played for the Baltimore Ravens, Mike Lee, I think. You know.
Okay.
You know, I think Caleb Plant ended up knocking him out. You know what I'm saying? But we talk about now that type of athletic toughness, I think translates a little bit more than basketball because of the full contact nature. So yeah, a lot of intrigue in Chad Johnson being on that card. You also got this UK cat on there, Vidal Riley. He's a pretty good rapper too. So,
Okay.
You know, he got some decent action on there as far as I can tell. But yeah, man. Yeah.
I like this. I'm gonna say I liked his approach. You know what I mean? Because he talked a lot about, and I think the training aspect before kind of played into it. Because he talked a lot about like respect for the sport. You know what I mean? And just what you risk associating with entering the ring. And I think he's gonna do well. Probably maybe surprise a bunch of people because his approach is respect for the sport and surviving. Right.
Absolutely.
So that's not walking in there like Nate Robinson thinking you're gonna intimidate somebody. So he may surprise some people, and it's funny because I was gonna ask you that question about, you answered it already, like if some of the advantages football might offer, right? So you know, I think it's something to pay attention to. You know, it's 4 rounds. Not saying that that's nothing, but so it's a shorter match and fighting for up to $1 million, man. You can't really beat that, you know?
Listen, man, he done got his dick knocked loose going across the middle for a lot less.
Yeah. So, that'll be a good thing to kind of add some intrigue, to what's already gonna kind of be an exciting night. So, we'll see what happens with that, bro.
Shout out to Ocho.
Yep, definitely. All right, so moving on, as we always do, it's time to go to school. So now we're gonna do the ABCs of boxing. We kind of talk about a basic technique, and you break it down for us beginners. So today we're going to just kind of talk generally about some top 5 like beginning mistakes that early boxers make. So, you know, obviously we know movement, certain things are important, but you know, it's also important to know kind of what's behind the movement, right? How that might impact you if you do it more or less effectively. So we're going to learn a little bit more about the sweet science today. So first, let's kind of start off with throwing arm punches. And you know how that can kind of be a mistake for, you know, a beginning fighter.
Well, you know, that's all my bolo boys out there. They they wild punches. You know what I'm saying? It's all my chicken wing kings. But you know, arm punches, man, is exactly what it says. Not really understanding that your shoulders, your back, your feet transferring energy. You know what I'm saying? And
right.
Formation and also not. I can tell you one thing I know that I used to do. Sometimes people think you gotta hulk your shoulders and make yourself into a shell, like no. You're tensing yourself and you're restricting range of motion.
Right.
So just that gentle nuance of you know, going, just, you know, turning your body. It's the movement. It ain't the power you're swinging with. It's how quick you're turning and how accurate and how precise you are. You know what I'm saying? In addition to your core, but it's really, you know, the precise movements. You know, getting people to run into punches. You know what I'm saying? It's throwing the punch and not necessarily hitting somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like throwing along the lines of what you're saying, like, you know, a lot of people I think kind of would overlook naturally, you know, like that, setting that good base, and you know that their power kind of comes from their legs, right? So that's really important. If you were, you know, you kind of worried about being top heavy, for lack of a better term, you know what I'm saying? Not only are you off balance, but you're losing power, you know? So I think that's something that people could overlook. That's kind of probably a fundamental, you know, thing. So let's move on down the line to head hunting. So, you know, we've all heard the term. So what is kind of head hunting? And how can that kind of affect you in the ring?
It's number one, it's just a poor philosophy to have as a combat fighter, or even, as I said, a person that's trying to defend yourself, quite frankly, because you're just talking about strategy and vulnerabilities of the opponent. You know, there's so much more surface area that the body offers other than the head. But again, because of ego and because of, you know, how sometimes we've been trained, you know, to punch him in the mouth, punch him in the head, knockout, you know.
Right.
You know, then you take every smart ass. It only takes 5 pounds of pressure to the chin. You know, but what they don't understand is you might have better results cracking somebody right in their sternum.
Right.
You should have paid me for that. I don't like giving that away. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying?
How many times do you be at the fight and what do you hear all night, right? Beat up that body, beat up that body, beat up that body, right? The body go. Yeah, I don't know if it's the body go or the head. I don't know what it's saying. But as you beat up the body,
kill the body, the head will fall.
There you go. There it is, man. But you know, if you go to the fights, especially in Philly, you can hear that. Beat that body up. Beat that body.
Jay, even when you're talking about literally 2 things. Somebody where you working their body and they're fighting lower and they're leaning forward because they don't want to get hit. Right? They're no longer here. Right? Or just if you giving them something to think about. You jabbing them in the chest and they bring it down for a second. And you snap them up here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You gotta think about which way you coming with it. You know what I'm saying? Then you catch them to the body.
True. All right, so number 3, we're going to talk about breaking line of sight, right? So, you know, kind of break that down for us. Like, what does that mean to kind of lose your visual in terms of the counterpunch and everything?
Let me tell you something. The biggest mistake that a novice makes in terms of breaking the line of sight is blinking. Either blinking when a punch is coming or blinking when you're throwing a punch. It's a natural reaction, but you have to undo it. You know what I'm saying? It's similar to how, you know, people, if you're using firearms, going to the range, self-defense, you gotta not be restricted by that initial startle. You know what I'm saying? But nothing cures that. This is what makes boxing so real. Nothing cures that but getting punched in the face.
Right.
getting in there real time, you know, having that experience or, you know, being, you know, experiencing enough physicality to where you don't flinch in that regard. You know what I'm saying? You can say, yo, you know, I seen the punch coming, he hit me, and then I was looking the other way and, you know, very conscious of what's going on around you. But think about it, a lot of times people are not used to throwing punches. You know, somebody throwing punches at them, they're blinking. They're like, hey, they might have their eyes closed, Jay. Fix to that. They don't know no better. He's a big, strong man. He got his eyes closed. Because he ain't been in no fights.
Right. I mean, listen, man, certain things you can only learn in action.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know? So it's very, 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 you have to be very willing to gain the type of experience that allows you not to take your sight off the line. Okay.
All right, so training too fast. So, you know, just in terms of, you know, the pace kind of people move at and the importance of the fundamentals, how could that be a mistake?
You know, a lot of people, a lot of wasted motion, you know, and it's like this thing, you know, we used to see it a lot back in the day. You know, you see a cat. All right.
I never see nobody win no fight like that.
Nah, but that's why.
I see people look cool doing it by themselves. Yeah.
Where you gonna go with that, right? Wasted motion though, or a lot of this shit, like drunken monkey, all this thing.
Oh man.
A lot of wasted motion, wasted energy. So then by the time somebody hit you with a two good trumps and then they in a tussle with you, you've been over there fucking snake dancing like Dawson, and now you fucked. You know what I mean? Or, you know, just you can't think of using the entire chessboard. Like I said, you got to make that decision if you're going to, you know, get in close, you're going to stay on the outside. So if you over moving, all you're doing is giving your opponent a rhythm to follow too. They say, yo, all he keep doing is walk side to side. So when he leaned down, Billy Joe Saunders to tell you about that.
Right. Oh man.
You don't want to.
Billy Joe Saunders, eye surgeon, will tell you about that.
Yo, he got a pair of aviators. Yo, he got a sponsorship. You know what I mean? By Ray-Ban. You know what I'm saying? Because of that. But again, it's a lot of wasted movement is what I'm saying.
You're right.
A lot of body language. You set yourself up to be hit. You waste energy. You can't conserve as well. And it's just not a good habit to practice long term. You want to be able to settle down.
So you kind of covered the fifth one already. You know, the fifth one was kind of energy expenditure, right? So how are like new fighters, let's rephrase the question, vulnerable to kind of losing energy based on lack of technique, right? Improper technique.
Sure. You know, the other thing is too not understanding cardio and that aerobic exchange that's involved in boxing. So, you know, you might have the idea that you can get on the heavy bag and, you know, just wing punches and bang on and these things, but get in there and sparring, that is a different beast because it's the breathing, keeping, not wasting any motion. You got to be breathing properly, and all you got to do all that, even when you take a hit.
Right.
When you throw a punch, you got to remember to resume breathing, you know, to not have disturbed your breathing if you've been hit or if you're throwing a punch. So that's why you don't need to have too much going on. You need to be as settled as possible. I'm taking my steps. I'm thinking, I know a punch is going to come at me. Oh, okay, I felt that. He hitting hard. Even if you're talking to yourself. That's me personally. You know, if I'm sparring, I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to my opponent. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking. You may tell me to shut the fuck up, but I would still keep talking because I'm trying to make I might start singing a song. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can hear you.
A little nuance. And again, you don't want to keep your mouth open, but you have to try to do things to overcome some of those bad habits until you can get stronger in the techniques that you need to have for the long-term success.
Right what I have. Footwork, breath work, technique, you know, practice, right?
That's it.
All right, so, you know, we always appreciate going to school, getting that free game before it costs. So the last part, you know, we usually take this time to either highlight an upcoming fighter or an event. So what's on your radar?
Well, two things. I want to shout out this weekend's action, Khalil Coe. That's Jersey City. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, okay.
What's going, Jay? Jersey City was in the house, second round stoppage with a body shot. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So shout out to him. It's funny because the zone been putting on a lot of Jersey cats on their undercards. It seems like Ray Ford from down on Camden, he's always been on the Canelo undercard somehow, some way. And now we got Khalil Coe. He was on this Devin Haney undercard. So I'm just looking.
Okay, definitely shout out to them.
Definitely shout out. As far as this weekend, this is a big return outside of the spectacle. This is a big return for Daniel Dubois. Now, I brought up Billy Joe Saunders, and it's funny. Daniel Dubois suffered a similar eye injury. I don't know as far as the specifics in terms of the bone breakages or what have you, but just in terms of a similar eye injury, couldn't continue to fight. Had to kind of deal with, coming back from that. And so this is what we're going to see, how he fights. Is he going to be a tentative fighter? Is he going to come back stronger than ever? Is he just not going to be the same, not going to look the same? So that's something people should watch. That's going to be the only fight on Saturday because, again, you got the whole weather spectacle happening on Sunday.
All right. Well, we got a lot to look forward to. Definitely this weekend. So it seems like we're going to have a lot to talk about next week. Before we get out of here, we just want to thank, I want to thank everybody for listening. Definitely please continue to comment on both the YouTube and the blog videos. Subscribe, to my man Page if you want to get that free game before it costs. And just continue, to like the videos. We're definitely humbled by the support. You want to say anything before we get out of here, bro?
Absolutely. Thanks as always for all the patronage, everybody, all the views, all the comments, all the feedback. It's very helpful. Continue to watch the videos, share the videos, like the videos. Also check me out on Instagram where I'm doing the weekly blog covering the events. That's King Amin of Essex 1. And we do what we do.
All right, my brother, you're going to take us out with that bell as always.
That's it.